Hi, in this show, we are gonna talk about what is an introvert, how does marketing work for introverts, what's the difference there. We have some practical tips for you, and at the end, we will hopefully have time for questions and answers. And if you're watching in the replay, I will make some chapter with all of this so you can easily find that. And first, to start it off, tell us, are you an introvert or an extrovert? Let us know. And because, as always, I am not the expert, but I know the experts and I found experts. And today we have Suzan. I trained for the last name and now I'm going stumble over the first. Suzan Czajkowski, she is a certified leadership coach and a professional certified coach. She has her own marketing business for over 12 years and she has specialized for marketing for introverts. Hi Suzan, thank you for being here.
Thanks so much for having me, Marcus. It is great to be here as a part of your show. I've been enjoying your show so much. I love what you're doing here, and I'm excited to be here and support you.
Thank you. That's very nice. And did I get it right with the introduction?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, there are so many things we can say about, what got us to where we are, but you absolutely hit the highlights. I actually really enjoy how you pronounced my last name.
Yeah, you told me before it is the right way, and you made some concessions for fellow Americans. Is it right?
Yeah. In
Okay.
America, it is Czajkowski or Czajkowski, whatever. If you can stumble through it, you're good. But in Polish, it's Czajkowski. Or if you really want to be right about it, I'm a girl, so it's Czajkowska.
Of course. Yeah, and I found that much easier to say it the right way. So
Yeah, I think from a European standpoint, that makes a lot of sense. I can see
okay.
that.
So, and today I try something new with the comments because I was finding I'm distracted with reading the comments and I didn't listen to the guest. Sometimes if I watched it later, I thought, oh, that's what she said there. And so we will collect all your comments and do question and answer in the end. So to make that a little bit easier, please put a Q in front of your question to easy find them. But now enough with the preamble. Let's go into it. Suzan, the first thing to really go into the topic would be what is an introvert?
Right. So, we think of introvert and extrovert as being on opposite sides of the spectrum, right? And so introverts are a little bit more quiet. We think of them that way anyway. It's interesting though, because introverts, and I like what somebody said it, being an extrovert. I think Sandy said it, being an extrovert in an introvert's body. There it is. And it can be that way. It can feel that way. It's not that simple. There's a continuum between introvert and extrovert. And it's actually more of an energy thing. So here's how you can tell if you're an introvert or an extrovert. I'm going to not spill my tea. But if this is our mug of energy, if filling the mug of energy for you is being quiet, listening to music, going for a walk, being by yourself, writing, reading, and that fills your energy. And then if draining your energy is being out in public, having to talk to people, having to be on the phone, having to leave the house, that makes you an introvert, right? And the exact opposite is true. If filling your mug of energy is being social and interacting with people, that kind of makes you an extrovert, right? And at the same time, draining energy for you might be being alone and having to spend time with your thoughts. That makes you an extrovert. So it is very much about how we manage our energy, what gives us energy, what drains our energy. But the thing we have to be careful about is that it's not that simple. People are surprised when they see a bunch of introverts together, all really loud and talking together. they're just excited, right? An introvert can get just as excited as an extrovert. It's just different things excite you. And that excitement might in itself drain you, where an extrovert, it would pump you up.
Okay. So if I understand you right, it's about energy. So an introvert can do everything an extrovert can do, but it costs him much more energy.
Right. It just depends on what it does for your energy. So Mark Thomas just said, speaking on the phone in a public place is my hell, right? And some of that is vulnerability or feeling self-conscious, but it also might be something that really, drains him because it is taking energy to maintain it. And what's interesting is introvert and extrovert is also very biological. How we respond chemically is part of it, right? We've got a primary nervous system and a secondary or paranervous system. And introverts tend to be a little bit more on that secondary, which is a little bit more about calm and relaxing. That's what they look at and gravitate to. Whereas extroverts are using their primary nervous system where they really like, to respond. But it all comes down to how much energy do you have to expend? How easy is it for you to expend? So it's what's interesting, I think, is people label themselves and they're not really sure. Well, you can look at what you physically live. It is a way that you are built. And so it is there, but it's also very variable. Everyone is different. Yeah. Sandy says she's 95% introvert. So that energy made sense for her. But there are times, if Sandy is an extrovert caught in an introvert's body, I'm willing to bet Sandy's comfortable maybe doing video or doing other things like talking to people. She just has to recover.
Okay. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
That makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. There's like 5,000 ways to explain it. So
yeah, but we only have about an hour, so we can't go into all the details. Maybe just the third type, we should go there very fast. The ambivert, what is that?
Ambivert. So actually 60% of the US population is an ambivert. And I say that specifically because that's where the studies were focused. But an ambivert is halfway between. So in Sandy's comment before about being an extrovert in an introvert's body, she's probably an ambivert where she's got a little bit more flexibility. She's not an extreme introvert. She probably dances a little bit on the extrovert side, but she's probably on the introvert side of what I think of as a spectrum or a continuum.
Okay. And I think I am an ambivert, but because for me it's based very much on the situation I am in. If I'm more outgoing or more for myself.
So I'd like to know, what is it you have experienced that you think tells you you're so, and I think you're right. And by the way, I'm an ambivert actually. So it's funny, I work with introverts, but I'm an ambivert. But what, Marcus, tells you that you land in the middle? What have you experienced that tells you that?
Yeah, I think if I'm in new situations where I'm not sure, then I tend to be more cautious and more waiting to see how everything works, and maybe I don't want to speak with many people, but then in other situations we both were dancing in the countdown time and,
well,
and having fun.
Right? Introverts can dance. I think there are a lot of misnomers. There are a lot of misnomers about that. For example, somebody we all know and love, Luria Petrucci, introvert.
Okay.
And she loves to dance. And a lot of it is introverts need a little bit more control over their world, right? They don't, you put them in a room with 100 people and that's a lot, but they're perfectly happy to be in a room with 5 people that they already know.
Yeah. Okay. So we will have to figure out if I'm an ambivert or an introvert.
You're an ambivert.
Okay,
you're an ambivert.
Okay, approved.
Actually, let's take that one more step, Marcus.
Okay.
Every introvert is unique. Okay, every introvert. They're actually categorized 4 types of introverts, but really, the mix of who you are as an introvert is unique. It's true about being an ambivert or an extrovert as well. How you show up is unique. It's easy to stick ourselves into buckets, and that can help us, but it's better to think of ourselves as just being uniquely who we are. And the goal then is to work with that. So you are a Marcusivert. I'm a Susanvert, right?
Okay.
Think of ourselves as unique and just understand who we are so that we can make decisions in our lives and in our marketing with that in mind.
Yeah, of course. I think these generalizations, they help to find then solutions or for things like the thing you are doing with helping introverts. So
Yeah.
for that, the generalization is good. If I look for my very own situation, then I can go deeper and don't care about all that.
Exactly. Those buckets are very, very helpful for helping us understand where we're going, but then we really have to drill down in order to use that information.
Okay. So my next question, there would be two different ways to ask them. The more provocative way would be, is it better to be an extrovert? And then the maybe better question is, are there advantages to being introvert or extrovert?
The answer to that is yes, 100%. There are advantages to all of them, right? And the point of that and the way to benefit from those advantages is to know who you are and to lean into it, not try to be somebody else. And that's one of the problems is we live in an extrovert centric world, and it's really easy for introverts to try to be like, okay, how do I become more extroverted? I used to be very focused on being extroverted, and I would think something was wrong with me because I'd go to a public event. I truly thought I was an extrovert. I would go to like a networking event and I'd sit outside in the car, psyching myself up to go in there. And then I'd leave. I'd want to leave early and I'd leave exhausted. And I thought something was wrong with me. And it took understanding that as much as I'm an ambivert, that introverted side of me has really begun driving the car, if you will. And it's who I am. And based on that, I can make better decisions. If I try to fight it, I'm only going to get exhausted and frustrated. But if I choose to be who I am, so, as an introvert, you might listen really well, or you might tend to listen to conversations and hear things that other people don't because you're busy listening while other people are trying to put together their next sentence. So those are just some examples, but I'd love, if we can, let's ask the audience, what is the strength? If you're an introvert, what's your strength? If you're an extrovert, what's your strength?
Yes, put that in the comments or in the chat. Very
So
good.
Marcus, what's your strength?
Okay. I think my strength is I'm very flexible and I can adapt well to different challenges and situations.
And that's an ambivert strength. That
Okay.
makes a lot of sense, right? That really is your ability to flex with the situation. And you and I have talked before. There's a difference. There's another word in here that you rarely hear. I know that you know about this because you might be one. There's ambivert and omnivert, right? So an ambivert lands in between, and omnivert kind of has access right along the spectrum. They're like, who do I need to be? And you might very well be an omnivert. It's very possible. I also am very, very flexible and I adapt in situations really well. My strength is I ask good questions. And I'm asking good questions because I'm listening to what's going on. And I'm like, oh, there's an important nugget. Let's talk about that. Right.
Yeah.
That's one of my strengths.
Yeah, and another fantastic thing you are doing is you are going live every Monday on Facebook, and there's always so much interesting things you're bringing up there. I until now I only linked your websites in the description, but maybe we could link the Facebook too, because even if I'm not in your target audience, business owners that are introverts, I find it so fascinating, and I think to go in there and really sometimes you are working out the things you're going to say while you're saying that. It's so fascinating. I
Yeah,
would
so
say that's a strength of you.
I'm a verbal processor, so I'll
Okay.
have an outline, but I don't know what I'm going to say until I'm in the middle of saying it, and then I'll look back and I'll be like, "Oh, that's what I was trying to say." Oh, okay, and that actually is an extroverted personality. Behavior is being more verbal of a verbal processor, which does not mean that introverts can't be verbal processors, but
Okay.
introverts tend to be writers.
Yeah. Okay. So now that we talked about advantages somehow, another thing is if I would be an introvert and I would say, oh, I would like to be more like an extrovert, could I and should I try to change?
Let's look at that a little bit differently. Let's think less about personality and more about skills. There's a skill to being outgoing. There's a skill to speaking in public. And if you are an introvert and you really need to protect your energy, but you really want to speak on stage or you really want to do video, you can look at the skills involved and get better at them. And one of the reasons that extroverts are better at talking in crowds is because extroverts tend to talk in crowds. Introverts struggle with that because they don't spend the time enhancing that skill. You want to hone the skill that you need to do the thing. So if there's something that you feel that you'd like to do that feels outside of that comfort zone, identify what it is, take a look at the skills involved, and start working on them. So if you want to start doing video, you can maybe just spend some time doing videos that you don't publish, or spend some time doing Instagram videos, or go live but with a specific group of people, do Lita or something, and build up to it slowly. Give yourself a safe space to do it, and then hone the skills you need to be able to expand that. But what we're really talking about is skills and comfort zones.
Mhm.
And an extrovert is more likely to be like, oh, I want to do that. It's outside my comfort zone. So let's go. And into the deep end they go. An introvert might need to put an elbow outside their comfort zone and then come back and be like, okay, all right,
That
let's do it again.
worked.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So they just need to expand it a little bit more slowly. And the thing is, going back to whoever you are, just note what your need is and use that to do the thing you want to do. Nothing is impossible. You just got to figure out how you need to get there.
Yeah, and build that muscle to then do that. Fantastic.
That's a good way of saying it. That's a great way of saying it. It's all about building the right muscles.
Okay. So now let's check some comments. I asked you, are you introvert or extrovert? And Sarah is introvert 100%. Sandy, we heard that already. An extrovert trapped in an introvert's body. Yeah, that's an interesting way looking at it, because you said it has a physical component, what you are, and the body, of course, is physical. And Lala is a fan of your logo. Okay. And Mark has something that is maybe even a good thing. He says speaking on the phone in a public place is his hell. And
yeah. Should anybody be speaking on their phone in public?
Yeah, sometimes we would wish more people would feel like that.
Amen. I think that's right.
And then Sandy said she is 95% introvert and agreed with what you said at the time. And then we have Jane, even though she is a strong extrovert, she really likes her quiet time and being alone.
Yeah. Yeah. So she's got a little bit, she's not an extreme extrovert. She's a little bit closer. She's still definitely, I know Jane, she's still an extrovert, definitely. Very boisterous and outgoing and happy.
Okay, cool. And Lala thinks she's an ambivert. Yeah, me time, of course. So a really strong extrovert maybe doesn't need any me time, or
so very few people are way at the extremes, and anybody who is living in an imbalance. So I said earlier that I used to think of myself as an extrovert. In that same window of time, I hated being alone in my head. And it wasn't that I wasn't physically capable of it or anything like that. It was that I didn't like what I was finding there.
Oh, okay.
And over a number of years, I went through a lot of processes, including counseling, to help me get settled in a lot of the things that were going on in my head. And now it's not as bad a place to be. And in figuring that out, the introverted side of me took over.
Okay.
So it's important that we have a balance. Everybody needs people, and everybody needs to know who they are inside and be okay with that person. You know,
Yeah,
if you can't spend time with yourself, why would anybody else want to spend time with you? So, but there is a need for both. And that's one of the big things with introverts who really isolate themselves is people need people. But introverts are more likely to have maybe 3 or 4 close friends. That's great.
That's perfectly
Great.
fine.
You've got people. Good.
Yeah, of course. But when you have practically no contacts with others, then you maybe should think about doing something.
That's not a good place for anybody. We are social animals. It's just a fact. And so it's important that everybody have somebody in their lives.
Yeah, that's very interesting because you said you changed over time, and I now just saw back many years ago, I went alone on holiday for a week, and I was only speaking with people if I was ordering some drinks or something to eat.
Well, a short window of time is probably fine, but by the time you were done, you were probably
it wasn't really a good experience, and maybe back there I was more an introvert. And
well, and there's there's introverted, and then there's shy, and then there's socially uncomfortable. Yeah. And if you're socially uncomfortable or shy, that doesn't necessarily mean you're an introvert. Okay. It just means that you're struggling to engage in social situations.
Yeah, and I moved away from that, luckily. Yeah, but it's also an interesting experience. For a week, it's okay, but yeah. Okay.
Yeah, for a week.
Yeah, then I flew back. Yeah. Okay. So then to the dancing, and if you are in the replay, you will miss all the dancing in the beginning. So try to watch live, and then you can comment and everything. Mark says introverts are great dancers. He prefers to dance alone in a nightclub.
Nice. So that's an interesting point, though. You know, have you ever gone to a movie alone? Have you ever gone and eaten at a restaurant alone, right? Last weekend, I was out and about. I ate at 2 different restaurants alone and was perfectly happy with that, right? Yeah. And that part of that might be being an introvert or that my introverted side, but it also is a skill, right? Getting your head over the fact that it's okay to eat out in public alone.
Yeah. I think that has to do with how secure you are with yourself. I used to hate that, and nowadays I have no problem doing that.
Yeah.
And then Mark says it's better to be an introvert. Okay.
For Mark, he probably is.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's the best thing if you're happy with where you are.
That's what's important. It really is important. You don't want to fight it. You know, figure out who it is so that you can be that person as best you can. So, and that's about being authentic. It's about being able to be you and being comfortable with who you are in the world. So you can make better decisions like around your marketing.
Okay, yes. You see, now I was distracted because I was reading the comments.
Read them. Let's see what's going on.
We are in the comment part, yes.
Yeah, there was a question in there, actually. Can we grab Lala's question? Yeah, that
this
one right there.
Yeah, that's the one is right now. Lala asks, is listening easier for certain personality types like for introverts?
You know, so before I answer, what do you think, Marcus?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. But the reason is because they've spent more of their life listening. Mm-hmm. And so they've got that skill. That being said, I do work with my members to help them listen better, because there's thinking you're a good listener, and then there's really learning how to listen deeply, which is a skill. And if you are somebody who tends to be there and you in that listening place, and you really want to leverage that, there are multiple levels of listening that we should talk about and make sure that you can use and tap, right? Because if you can use them, especially if you're marketing, what you hear, understanding it, being able to analyze it at a different level will serve you. So if you already have a predilection towards listening, let's make you a good listener.
And another thing is like we said, maybe an introvert needs to practice to be more around people, and then the extrovert maybe then needs to practice to listen better.
Yeah. I mean, I think everybody does, right? You've heard it before. I've got 2 ears and 1 mouth. Use them in that balance, right?
Yeah.
But it takes practice. It takes practice.
Yeah. And then we have Paul. Introverts make great editors too, also because they're so observant on timing and subtle communication cues.
I would totally agree with that. Especially the editor's part. Introverts tend to be writers. They definitely are readers. I sent a survey out to my email list not too long ago, asking them. I was like, I'm thinking about taking, what I do on Facebook Live and, all that in my blogging. And I'm thinking about going either to a podcast or to YouTube. And I said, or something else. And if it's something else, what is that? More than 25% of the people that responded said something else. They were like, if whatever you do, if there's a written version of it, please give that to us. Mm-hmm. So they prefer to read and to write and to spend that time in their heads processing versus, listening or watching video. But that's a tendency again, right? It depends.
Of course. Yeah, of course. With the generalization. Yeah. And then Stephanie says she spent the past 13 years thinking her daughter was an extrovert, and she came to find out this summer she's an introvert, and that's been a huge game changer with how she interacts with her after school now.
Yeah, Stephanie, I love that you're leaning into that and being like, okay, now that I know this is what we should do. That's fantastic. I have to admit, I didn't know that I had so much introvert in me until, and it really didn't come out, I think, until I got older. But I only found out a couple of years ago that my sister, I've got a twin sister, and she's an introvert, and my mother is an introvert. And I'm like, oh, suddenly that made so much sense. And many of my clients tend to be introverts. I tend to gravitate towards working with introverts, which is how I got to doing what I am. Is I just, one day I looked up and went, oh, I work with introverts. I didn't even know.
Okay. And then Lynn thinks she's an extrovert. Ellie thinks she's an introvert.
Yeah, she is, definitely. She lives like a mile from me. Hi, Ellie.
And Paul thinks he's an introvert. And
oh, Paul, we should discuss that. I don't know.
Paul, book a consultation. Okay.
Maybe.
And Stephanie knows what she is. She's an extrovert.
You can do that.
Okay.
See that. She's outgoing and she loves it. She thrives on it.
There are more comments, but we make
maybe Paul said movies alone are a delight. Paul might be. I don't want to tell you who you are.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll get back to the comments, but for now I want to go into the next segment, and that is what how is it different to do marketing as an introvert? And you mentioned we're living in a extrovert-centric world, and I think for marketing that is especially true.
It is really true. There's an expectation that you're going to be on all the time, and that you're going to be putting all of your work out and all of your content out over and over. And extroverts might even be excited by that. They're driven with that. They've got more energy to spare, and they're going to be more interactive. That, being on, for an extrovert, get on Facebook, post things, and then reply to everybody who replies to you. Same with introverts. With Instagram, puts everything out there and then reply to everybody who replies to you. And that can be exhausting for an introvert. So the difference really for I want to say one of the challenges with marketing is that there's a lot of do what I do and you will succeed kind of messaging out there. That's not necessarily valid. There are many different ways to market yourself. And for an introvert, the very first thing to do is look at what you want to do. and where you thrive, and then what can we do with that information. So I had a client who, when we first got together, said, okay, I'm going to speak on stage. I'm writing a book. I'm going to publish the book, and then I'm going to speak on stage. And I was like, and how do you feel like that? And she's like, oh my God, it's like the worst thing ever, but I'm going to do what I have to do for my book. And I was like, well, let's see if we can find something that you can do that doesn't wipe out all of your energy so that you can do it on a sustained time frame. Because some of the biggest parts of success in marketing are finding something to do and doing it consistently and sustainably over and over. And so instead of getting her up on stage, which was going to be exhausting for her, she started a podcast. And so she wanted to speak through her content, but we put her in a place at home with a microphone where she was much more comfortable and could sustain the work. So it kind of comes back to, who are you?
Okay, yeah, and the podcast, that is interesting because I think many people here in this live streaming community are introverts.
Mhm.
And with the stereotypical view, you would think, no, that all has to be extroverts because they're on camera. But
We know a lot of introverts that are on camera. Most of us here know Kathleen Sinnott. She's on camera all the time, and she's an introvert. We
yeah,
can't. There are many different types of introverts with different capabilities, and it just depends on where's your comfort zone, where's your curiosity,
yeah, and
and
yeah,
all of that.
of course. And another thing I found, I think on your website that you say there, it's really important if you own a business to be in charge of the marketing.
Yeah.
And maybe the default for introverts is, oh, I don't want to do marketing, and they would more easily delegate it than. Or,
So you need to be tapped into your own marketing, no matter who you are. You need to be. Even if you bring on somebody else to do the writing, they need to be writing in your voice. They need to be writing about your content that you know about. They need to be drawing on your specialty. So you can't divest yourself of your marketing. And a lot of people try to. On the other, so it's about, if you're going to bring somebody on to do it with you, they need to be doing it with you. But the other side of that is, especially if you're new to business and you decide to do everything in your marketing, if you decide to do it, it can feel like it's a second job. Like, I'm running my business and I'm marketing it. So I've got two jobs, and it shouldn't be that way. And so we need to look at, how can we make things efficient for you so that it's not sucking the life out of you. So you do have the energy to do another job. It's not, how can we make that all cohesive?
yeah, you already mentioned doing a podcast. What other forms are there that are especially good for introverts?
So I've got an ebook that you know about that has information about that. The answer is anything can work for you, but there are specific answers to that I think tend to be better for introverts, and there are specific reasons why. So email marketing is an excellent answer for an introvert because they prefer to communicate in a one-on-one environment anyway. And in email, you're inherently communicating one-on-one, even if you're sending it out to a bunch of people. So that's and it's writing, which introverts tend to like. So from a tendency standpoint, that's one of the better answers. Another answer, and again, it's in the ebook, another answer that's in there is, this one might be a little unusual. Having a Facebook group as an introvert can work if you're really careful about who you bring in. Okay. Because if you're an introvert who you don't want to talk to everybody, so maybe you don't publish anything out to the world, but you bring in people into a Facebook group that you get to know. So that could work really, really well for an introvert because you know everybody. You don't feel, that kind of thing. Or you create the group, but you only go in there periodically, or you handle it remotely, and only post in there and auto post. That could work for you. You can make it work for you.
Okay. Good. And we will come to the ebook you mentioned in the next segment. First, let us talk about your membership. So if somebody who listens to this and thinks, oh, that is so cool, I need to know more, then we have, but then I don't have to show my outline. I have to show you. Yeah, just go to the
Little behind the
outline. I
scenes.
go drink my coffee and you can read from there.
Little behind the scenes work in there. It's
Yeah,
all
of
good.
course.
Yeah.
So the website is linked in the description, and if we land there, then we come here to. There is your membership. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so it's the Introverts Marketing Academy, and it is where, and I was talking just a second ago, right, about a Facebook group where only certain people are in there, so you get to know them. In a lot of ways, that's what the Introverts Marketing Academy has in terms of its space, its environment. We have a community of people who are introverted business owners learning to market their business in the way that fits them uniquely. And it is courses, community, and coaching. So we meet every single week, and that's about talking with the members about where they are in their marketing and helping them take their next step forward, helping them make really good decisions in their marketing based on, not what the extroverted world is saying, but what they need to be doing next, helping them stay focused. We make some specific decisions about marketing for introverts, like, no, you don't put yourself on every single social media. You pick one and you worry about that one. And, it's the same way with the marketing overall, is just trying to keep them focused so that they're not overrun, so they can focus on, and we talk a lot about how to repurpose content and things like that. For people who don't know how to market their businesses yet, there are courses to help them do that. And I'm doing an email marketing course now that I'll be publishing later on in the end of this year or the beginning of next year. But that's, we talk about email marketing all the time in coaching, but this is going to be a soup to nuts, how to get started in email marketing, how to write a good email, the whole deal. That's coming out very soon.
And so if I am interested in that, then I can go here and learn more. And
Yep. You click the button, it'll bring you right to it.
Cool. And if I'm not sure if it's the right thing for me, then you would help me to find that out, I guess.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. It's not for everybody, and it's a monthly membership. So a person is like, oh, let me check it out. They can come in for a month and see if it works, right?
Perfect,
and see if it fits them. And you'll always learn something. You won't not learn something, but you can also decide, is this what I want? But if you're not sure and you want to stay on the outskirts, that's what the ebook right down below is get the ebook and you'll end up on the email list.
We're coming to the
We'll
ebook.
get there. I don't mean to rush you. I apologize.
No.
But they work together. That's why they're on the same page.
Of course.
But if anybody
it's right down here.
There it is. If anybody has any questions, I am happy to answer, and to talk to you and we can do a quick Zoom call and talk about whether or not it's the right fit for you. It's as much about what we've got going on in the membership as it is about what's going to develop in it next year. It's been around for a couple of years in beta, and I just launched it out of beta 7 months ago. So it was in beta for a really long time. Well, I kind of figured out what I wanted it to be. And now it's up and running. And memberships are always in development, right? They're always like, well, what's working, what's not. Okay. That's what I like about them. We were talking about being agile and being flexible. A course just is kind of what it is. You make changes in between. I like that. I'm like, you know what? Let's try this. Let's try that. And it's nice. I like flipping things around a little bit to see what works.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's a really good deal that it's a monthly membership. Many other sites will try to sell you for a year, and then they have the money. And
you can say, there is actually an annual option. You can save money if you join. So, for an annual, you get like 2 months free. But if you're like, I'm not even sure if this is going to work for me, then go month to month, see what makes sense to you, and
that's great.
If it fits. It's meant to be flexible in that way.
Yeah, and I know if I would be a business owner, I would be very interested, because only from the things I hear from you on the Mondays on Facebook, I know you have so much value there. So everyone who thinks maybe that is something for me, go and check it out. Link is in the description. And now, since you mentioned it before, we're going to the ebook, and yeah, that would be the segment Practical Tips, and there we have two things that two wins for you as viewer, because one, you get the free guide, and the second point is you can learn about what is a lead magnet, because that's what this ebook is as well.
Yeah. Do you want me to talk about that at all?
Yes, but first I just go through here. Because I did it today. I pressed here get free guide, and then you leave your email and you get a link to download, and you get a nice message from Suzan, and she asks if you got it, and I didn't message back there. Yeah, but it's the ebook is on the same site that's linked in the description, absolutely free. Go there and check it out. It has even a very nice picture with a pretty dog and calm water here. So, but nothing can go wrong there. Yeah, but please go ahead.
I was just going to say, the idea behind that actually is it can feel like you need to jump into the deep end with your marketing and do everything all at once right now. And the whole point is that you can stick a toe in and try something and decide if it works for you. And you can change your mind, or you could do it a little bit at a time and figure it out over time. You don't have to do all the things. Doing all the things is the extroverted approach to marketing. And we don't need to do that. You don't. You in fact, if you're not everywhere, if you pick a channel and you decide that this is where I'm going to be, let them find you. So that's really what this is all about.
Yeah, perfect. And there you have all the tips and tricks, and yeah, just go and download it. And now we can go to that is also a lead magnet. And what is a lead magnet anyway?
So a lead magnet is one of the items that's listed in this ebook, and a lead magnet is an item, a PDF, a video, a podcast, one episode. It can be a lot of different things, but it's something that somebody can download digitally for free in exchange for their email address. And people who download it are likely to be warm leads because they're asking for this particular thing. So this is another example of have them come to you. Put something out in the world that your ideal customer would want, and then anybody who downloads it, you can expect that they're probably, or a percentage of those people are your ideal customer. And so you continue to talk to them through emails. But getting that email address is one of the best things you can do, especially when Facebook goes down, or Facebook and Instagram go down, or wherever you are. It's a default move that everybody who decides they're going to market themselves, okay, I must have to be on Facebook, I'm going to do that. And that's like the default move when there are so many other options, many of which are actually better. If you can build an email list of people who've already said they want to hear from you, you can keep talking to them because they've asked you to.
Yeah, that's extremely important. And so you have control over your own potential customers. And
yeah, you have control over, who the people are that you're talking to, what you say to them. You have more free reign. It's your space. You can put your logo on that email if you want, right? You're not, every time you communicate with them, you're not advertising Facebook or advertising some platform that you're in. You're just sending them an email in the one place that every single person just about opens every single day, right? How many times today, Marcus, have you checked your email?
Yeah. Okay, the business email I have to check every day. The the private, I try to minimize that. But yeah,
Yeah, but I
I
mean, how
turn,
often, how
yeah,
many
of
people
course.
that are watching this right now have their
Yeah.
email open in another tab?
Yeah, of course. It still works. It's somehow frustrating how many email we get, but
Mhm.
from the marketing perspective, it's really gold to.
And there's a lot in there. You want to write an email that's valuable,
Yeah,
right? An email that people are looking forward to. And that's its own skill. And it can be done. It absolutely can be done.
yeah,
That's the kind of thing I teach my members.
and that again goes with you have to find your audience because
Mhm.
then the email is welcome.
Yep.
And yeah, that's another thing. I got your mail, and there is an unsubscribe button. And if I think, oh, no, I don't want to hear more of that, then I press there,
Mhm.
and that's a good thing because why would you want to talk with me if I'm not interested? Then it's
Absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely, and that's why if you're maintaining an email list and you're
mhm,
emailing people and people unsubscribe, I see people unsubscribe, I'm like, "Thank you, bye.
yeah,
Hope life goes well for you." That's awesome because we don't need that. They don't need me, that's fine. There's
yeah,
more room on my email list for other people who
yeah,
do wanna be there.
exactly, yeah, and do you have an dialogue via email? Does it work that people respond?
Yeah.
Like you asked me to say, yeah, I got it.
Mhm.
It got delivered.
Yeah,
Does
yeah,
that work or
so first of all, yes, it works.
okay?
Second of all, you have to expect that it's going to be a small percentage. But when I send out questions, I get responses, and the email I sent out today had some questions in it,
Mhm.
and I got 3 responses almost right away, and that was like great. That's what and some of that is just driving engagement, but I'm usually asking them questions that are going to be helpful to them and to me.
Yeah, that you
Right.
actually
So
interested in the
give
answer.
them
Yeah,
a reason to click. Give them a
yeah,
reason to respond that's in it for them. It's not just, "Hey, I want to know this about you." Like I asked you to let me know that you got the lead magnet because I want to make sure you got it, right? And
of
if you
course.
don't reply to me, but also the next email is going to say, "Was it helpful?"
No, okay. So
Right?
so I better read it. I just got it today. I hadn't have time.
Yeah, and that email won't come till tomorrow, but there's a
Okay,
second email coming, and it's actually asking you 3 questions, right?
okay,
Tomorrow's email is gonna ask you 3 questions, and hopefully you'll respond,
okay.
and if you don't, that's fine. A lot of people don't, but it's always interesting when people do because they're answering there is a real person at the other end, and I
Yeah.
will reply back to them.
Yeah, and that's another thing. If I just stumbled on this site and don't know you and just downloaded it, then you need to make some sort of connection with me to
Mhm.
engage me.
Well, what's interesting in marketing overall, the thing that we're trying to do, and this matters for everyone, but especially small businesses, and I think it's a cornerstone of marketing as an introvert. We're here to help them get to know us, like our message, hopefully us, but we want them to like our message and what we can do for them, and trust that what we do will help them. Know,
Mm.
like, and trust. And I've had people when they email me express surprise when I email them back. They're like, "Oh, you're really there."
Yeah,
Yes, I
you're
am
not
actually.
just a brand. Yeah,
And then I hear
yeah,
from them again. Next time I ask a question, I hear from them again.
yeah,
And
of
then I
course.
ask another question, I hear from them again. And that relationship is what's going to help them trust me so that if they keep talking to me, they're likely my ideal client. And so if they don't buy next time, down the road they still might.
Yeah, and I guess that's the difficult and the important part is to get that first move where someone replies to you, and then
Mhm. Yep,
yeah,
if anybody ever replies to your email, hit reply and say thank you.
okay,
Definitely. You wanna let them know you're there.
okay. Perfect. That is really fascinating, and we could talk about it for hours, but I think I ignored all these comments,
Yeah, there's some
and
good questions in there.
we're going okay. So we go quick there. You already saw them, and I ignored them.
No, it's all good. I just saw them on the side. I
Yeah,
just
okay.
noticed them.
So Stephanie says she found that people she met online through Lida and Streamer Accelerator understand her so much better than her family and friends do.
Interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah, I think it's one thing is this deep connection that happens with live streaming,
Mhm.
and another thing then can also be if you're not if you're not knowing someone really well, you can also project some things in there.
Yeah. So part of the other thing though is, and it's an interesting distinction, Lita and SA versus our friends and family. Well, when we join communities like Lita, like Streamer Accelerator, like people who join my community, we're in there for a common reason. And so there's already a base understanding, and not just understanding, but also compassion for what we're all trying to do. And you end up with a support system, especially someplace like Lita, where we're also choosing to be vulnerable and
Yes.
support each other in being vulnerable. Our family still sees us as the 5-year-olds that we were, and we can't change that, nor should we try. And our friends, what is the common denominator that brought us together, and does that still exist, right? So I think that says a lot for Stephanie specifically. I think that she's found her people. That's what it sounds like to me, but that's insightful.
Yeah, for me, it is more that in this community, I discovered another side of me that is much more going out and showing feelings and going deep, and yeah,
So
it's
Marcus, has it changed who you are on the other side of you, the side of you that was
of
already there?
course, yeah.
Yeah.
And also this live streaming is a real confidence builder also. Yeah.
Yeah. And when we do things like this, it does wash into the rest of our lives.
Of course.
Yeah. That's some of the good stuff.
Then Cheryl, I don't know if we have enough time for that, but maybe you have a quick answer, wants to know more about the different types of introverts.
Yes, I can whip through them really quickly if I can remember all the names. So social introvert is your classic introvert. It's the person who we think of with introverts where they really don't want to interact with other people. You have an anxious introvert. If you're an anxious introvert, you might have anxiety as well as introversion, and they're complicating each other. So it can be helpful to uncomplicate them and look at them as separate things, especially your anxiety, which might be making your introversion worse. The other two, I'm going to see if I can come up with their names. One is, the word's escaping me, but it is, you have a tendency to warm up slowly. So if you're somebody who you get into a room where there's lots and lots of people and you're happy to interact, but you need first to get the lay of the land, then you might be this kind. I can't think of the name. But so maybe you start out as a wallflower, but over time you get comfortable and you come off the wall and you start interacting people as you get your bearings. So that's one. And then it starts with an R. I can't think of it. And then the fourth one is a thinking introvert. And this is my style of introversion, where you just spend a lot of time in your head, and that's your happy place. And it's funny, I mentioned early on, when I was younger, I couldn't go near my head. I was really less comfortable. I ride a motorcycle, and if I had to be in my helmet for more than an hour, it was torture. And now I spend a lot of time in my head, and I just had to make it a safe space for myself. And now I spend a lot of time in there, and it's a natural place for me to be. So I'm a thinking introvert. So hopefully that answers Cheryl's question.
Okay, I think that last thing you said would be about an hour-long discussion for itself. Okay, so Lala wants to know, is being shy always the same as being an introvert?
You've got it right, Lala. Being shy does not make you an introvert. Those are two separate things. You can have an extrovert who's shy, and you can have an introvert who's shy. And again, they can complicate each other. But the other side of this is, just because a person is an introvert doesn't mean they're shy. Those are two distinct things.
Okay. And Ellie says she used to take it personally when her husband wouldn't talk to her after he got home from work, and then she learned that he was an extreme introvert, and by understanding that, life gets so much better.
Yeah, because now Ellie's not walking around going, "What did I do? What's wrong with me? Why won't he talk to me?" She's going, "Oh, he needs space first." Right? So she learned how to work with it. And I get that totally.
Perfect. And Cheryl says she does worry, however, that some of our young people are identifying themselves as introverts because they find being online, gaming, and social media, and watching YouTube videos, etc., to be less. Okay, and
Yeah,
then it's too long.
it's possible. It's possible. And Cheryl, one of the things that we talked about earlier is this isn't just a way of being; it's a skill set. And if they're spending time with gaming and social media, and that for them is social interaction, but they aren't getting the skill of face-to-face interaction, that might be kind of pulling back on their skill set of interacting, whether they're introverts or extroverts. There's still a skill set in there. That was the downside of quarantine, is these young children not being able to really learn how to be social. So hopefully those kids are getting the social time they need in order to hone those skills. So, but yeah, I see what she's saying. Absolutely.
Okay. And Lala putting the Q in the front so I can easily see that it's a question. Very good. Is there one technique or marketing plan that can be effective for all personality types, or has it to be niched to be more effective?
I would say that any technique or marketing plan can work for any personality type. It depends on who that person is. Right? That you're going to have an introvert who's like, yeah, but I'm okay with being on video, and somebody else who's like, I will do a podcast, but you're not putting this face on camera. So it depends, right? It really is about niching down to a person, but you can take these personality types and group them and say, because you're an introvert, here are our best guesses. Introverts tend to be writers. They can be very creative. I have a lot of artists in my community. They can be very creative.
Yeah.
Using that information, let's design a marketing strategy that works for you.
And that goes back to, it's a general rule, so you have always to identify if it applies to you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so, figure it out generally and then get more specific in order to find your personal answer.
Yeah. And Stephanie says she's in awe of people who can maintain Facebook groups. She's an extrovert, but they suck the life out of her. You need to post so much to keep the engagement going.
Yeah, I'm with you, Stephanie. They take a lot of guarding and a lot of work and a lot of attention, and you probably need a team if you really want to do it well. So I 100% agree with you. I don't want to do it, but I know people who do, and it can work. You just, maybe you're really careful about who you let in. Maybe it's not maybe it's a paid one, or you've got to fill out a questionnaire. You only put it out as a special offer to certain people. I don't know.
Yeah, but it's not only the moderating, it's also how do you keep engagement high, and the easiest thing to keep it high is to be engaging yourself, but then you have to constantly invest.
One of the things that we lean on, especially introverts, but in marketing in general, everyone should lean on this, is automation. So I don't need to actively post every week. I can schedule out the next 8 weeks, not months, but 8 weeks of posting.
Yeah.
And then walk away and leave it alone, right? So it's about managing it, having a system in place that enables you to manage it. So you don't worry, I've got a client right now that I'm working with where we're figuring things out from now till the middle of January so that we don't have to think about it over the holidays. And then, and that's what automation is all about.
Yeah, that's great. And once you get it going with the community, then they will engage each other as well.
Yeah, once the community gets big enough, they'll communicate around them. They'll do it themselves. But then you've got to guard it and make sure if you've got a no promo rule that nobody's promoting themselves, things like that. You've got to, of course. And that's where bringing on a low cost VA can really come in handy.
Okay. So then, Stephanie, very interesting questions. Do you also have a resource for how extroverts can market to introverts or to campaign specific to introverts?
I do not.
Okay.
That is not something that I work with. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's an interesting thing. If you
You know,
just read very quickly over the title of this video, it could be
yeah, no, I see what you're saying.
mistaken.
And so here's the thing to think about in that regard. If introvert, so, and I can talk about my own marketing, honestly, in this. My marketing is meant to be, to connect with introverts. So I'm going to look at my messaging a certain way, and I'm going to figure out where introverts are and put myself there. And so whether you're an extrovert, an ambivert, or an introvert, if you're looking for introverts, or if you're looking for, you're looking for people who want to learn how to play guitar, it's the exact same question. What is the kind of communication they respond to? What are the words they use? And where can I find them? And then use that information. So that's just a marketing approach in general.
Very good. And then the
Yep.
link from the description, Lala
Thank you, Lala.
gave it to us also in the chat. Yeah, it's Suzan C. Set.
Nice.
Yeah, Set, is that correct?
Yeah,
.com.
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
In Europe, yeah, Zed. I think maybe even Canada, yeah.
And in American it would be
Z.
C. Okay. Very good. And then we have to catch up. Sarah has a question. She really struggles with feeling like she's bothering people when she puts marketing out there, even so she knows people can't come if they don't know about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Sarah, that's a very common one. Actually, I've heard that one before. And that is a mindset answer, right? And you're asking you've got two pieces in there. Well, you've got two pieces in there, what you're afraid of, what you're worried about, those feelings. But then you've got this other piece. They can't come if they don't know about it. So follow that thought. How is it going to benefit them? And if you look at how it's going to benefit them, the right people, what if you got the right people there? What are they going to get out of it? And what kind of a disservice would you be giving them if they didn't know about it and they didn't get there? How are you actually working against them by not telling them about it? You need to tell them about it, right? It's actually to their benefit that they be there. So I would follow that. And when you're focusing on feeling like you're bothering people, you're worrying about yourself, and that's going to get in your way. Worry about them. What do they need? And they need to know about this. And if they choose not to go, that's fine, but then they had an option. And you're taking that option away from them completely if you haven't told them.
And in addition, I think people nowadays are really good and efficient with ignoring everything they don't want to hear or see. So
Yep.
if they don't want to hear from you, they just forget immediately that they saw it. And so put it out there.
Here's the trick. I'm going to share this. Here's the trick. Don't tell them what it is. Tell them what they're going to get from it. Tell them about the outcome, about the possibilities, right? If if you're offering coaching so that they can get a result, don't sell them the coaching, sell them the result. And, when it comes to what you were asking, Sarah, you're going to help them get more organized. Why? That's what you want to sell. What is the being more organized going to give them that they don't have now? And wouldn't it help? In fact, being disorganized, how is that hurting them? Would also be useful, not just for them, but for you to be tuned into as to why they need this outcome. So I would look at that.
It's fantastic. That's exactly what I mean. We can always learn so much from Suzan. Click the link and go find everything out.
Yeah. I have to tell you, Marcus, that's a new learning for me over the last couple of years of, I really should share these ideas. I really should share these things that I'm thinking, and going live, doing things like Lita, talking to people like you and hearing about the impact, right? We all have things to learn, and it just takes courage, daring, and vulnerability on our parts.
And for me, it was also hard to believe. People told me they want to see me live, and I had a hard time believing it. And if you hear it enough, then you start believing it. What was that around those topic for you too? Or?
What was that? So what's your question?
So, was that the same for you, that you maybe thought people don't need to hear that?
Less about people don't need to hear about it. I struggle still with what I can do to help them.
Okay.
I want to talk to them. I think they need to hear it, but what? It's really easy for me to go deep, to talk big about, about things either in a really big way and not get specific, or to get really, really deep. I talk about the fact that I like to walk around the tree and pick up all the rocks and smell the flowers and just take the long way around the tree. And it's been helpful to hear that people like that, because
Yeah.
that's what I was worried about. How do I get in there and be really specific? And it can be helpful to start with the big picture. Why does this even matter?
And you
And
need both. You need the big picture and the
Mhm.
details. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I'm just caught up with the comments, so I would say we take Roy's question here. He, typical Roy self-deprecation. He says he's a lousy salesman, but then his concrete question is it's hard to approach people.
Yeah. So you're right. There are two things in here. One is that self-judgment. I'm going to judge myself before anybody else gets a chance. There are definitely strengths that tech troublemakers bring into the table, and it's important to recognize those. But this is a common question with introverts. It's so hard to approach people. How do I do that? And especially from a sales perspective, the answer is to approach with questions. Get them talking, especially if you're an introvert. It takes that weight of talk off of your shoulders. Invite them to talk, ask them, questions, start out with just some dreaded small talk, find out who they are, find out where they work, or something like that. But ask them specific questions around the thing that you sell. So in my history, a long time ago, I used to market college textbooks. And every college textbook has like a bazillion features. And it's really easy to walk into a room where a professor is and say, it's got these 10 features that you need. And that professor doesn't know what to do with that information because it's not connected to what he's struggling with. But if I instead walk in and say, what's the book you're using? Oh, that's awesome. What do you like about it? What don't you like about it? And as they tell me what they don't like about it, I can go through my catalog and be like, okay, I know a book that will do that better, and bring that to them and say, this will do the thing that you find that book that you're using is not doing. And they're like, oh, now they want to look at it because they've got a problem and I've just given them the solution, and I let them lead me there. So start with questions, let them do the talking, and then listen to what they're saying and use that information to target what you're trying to do.
Fantastic. So that's all the tips you will get right now from here. For the rest, follow the links. So Susan, thank you so very much for coming here.
Thank you for having me, Marcus. This has been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed it.
Okay, so
Yeah. Usually it's you're talking and I'm typing, or I'm talking and you're typing. It's nice to actually have a conversation with you.
That's it. And next week we will talk with John Pullum.
Nice.
Same day, same time next week. But yeah, thank you very much, Susan. Thank you everyone for being here. If you're watching in the replay, leave a comment so we know you were here. And see you next week. And I find the button. Bye.